Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates. Last night I thought to myself, should I stay up until 5 AM and watch the Game Awards despite having to get up a few hours later for work? Or be a responsible adult and go to bed at a reasonable time? Well, you guys know how many times I've been burned with these events having 0 Star Wars games, so I figured let's be an adult this time. Well, I shouldn't have, because today we all woke up to 2 new Star Wars game announcements at last night's Game Awards, plus another game announcement earlier this week. And more than we've gotten since, I'm not sure, I can't really remember the last time we got 2 Star Wars game trailers in the same day. Probably EA Play, like 7 years ago or something like that. But let's rip off the band-aid first. No, it's not a multiplayer shooter. And yes, I would gladly trade all of these 3 games for a multiplayer Star Wars shooter. But we've ranted enough about that over the last couple of years, so for today I'm actually gonna try to be a bit positive about the fact that we are actually getting new Star Wars games, some of which look really good. So let's start off with the big one, Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic. I think most of us was expecting a potential mention of the KOTOR remake, but instead we got this announcement, a brand new Old Republic game. And while this isn't KOTOR 3, or a remake, or even a direct sequel, it's very clearly aiming to sit in that same space. Fate of the Old Republic is a brand new single-player action RPG set at the end of the Old Republic era, with you stepping in the role of a Force user at a time when the galaxy is basically on the edge of rebirth. The game is being developed by Argonaut Studios in collaboration with Lucasfilm, and that name might not ring a bell yet, but the people behind it certainly should. Argonaut was founded by Casey Hudson, the director of the original Knights of the Old Republic and the Mass Effect trilogy, so about as good of a resume you can ask for when it comes to a cinematic choice-driven RPG. They are, however, very open about the fact that this is not a direct continuation of KOTOR, but it is being built by people who helped shape that legacy in the first place. The focus here is player agency, narrative depth, meaningful choices, and that whole light side or dark side fantasy that made KOTOR so special. According to Hudson, the goal is basically to deliver a modern, definitive Star Wars RPG using today's technology, but with the same core pillars that made KOTOR resonate in the first place. It's gonna be really interesting to see how they handle the entire Star Wars canon storyline, as the old KOTOR games are not canon, but maybe this game could make certain parts of those games canon by mentioning those stories too. Who knows? It's gonna be interesting nevertheless. When it comes to the trailer, there's honestly not too much to say. This is a cinematic trailer made in the Unreal Engine 5, so in no way is it representative of how the actual gameplay is gonna look. But the graphics do look very good, that's for sure, so let's hope that the game is somewhere close to that. I personally played KOTOR for the first time 2 years ago, as a lot of you might remember, since I livestreamed the entire playthrough, and even though the game is over 20 years old, I think it held up incredibly well, which makes me very excited for a modern game in the same style. That said, there's some stuff that worries me here, because Argonaut Studios was only founded in July 2025, which means that this project is very, very early in development. This is one of those announcements that exists to set expectations and generate excitement, and probably for them to be able to hire some new people as well. And it's not gonna be something we'll be playing anytime soon. If anything, this does remind me a lot of Star Wars Eclipse and the KOTOR remake, both of which were revealed back in 2021 with a flashy trailer and then basically vanished into hyperspace with 0 updates since. Rumors are that they are both still in the works, but still, it doesn't look very promising. So as exciting as Fate of the Old Republic looks, I wouldn't expect gameplay, release windows, or even regular updates for quite a while. This is a long-term investment kind of project. Still, the fact that Lucasfilm Games is trusting a brand new studio led by Casey Hudson with this kind of RPG says a lot. If they stick the landing, this could be the closest thing we've had to a true KOTOR-style experience in over 2 decades. But for now, we'll probably have to forget about this game for at least a couple of years. Next up, we've got Star Wars Galactic Racer, which is actually coming out in 2026, so a lot sooner, which is a game that I'm personally not too excited for, because you know me, I'm not a huge fan of neither flying or racing. But that being said, I'll give it a shot and I'll probably crash into the first boulder available on the track if I know myself correctly. The trailer drops us onto Jakku, specifically the Graveyard of Giants, which you might remember from Battlefront 1 and 2, which has been turned into an unsanctioned racing track, weaving between crashed Star Destroyers and AT-ATs. And as a setting, that actually works really well. The game is being developed by Fuse Games, which includes devs who previously worked on Need for Speed, Burnout, and even Starfighter Assault in Battlefront 2. So they definitely know how to make fast, chaotic racing. This isn't just a series of disconnected races either. There is a campaign where you can play as a new character called Shade, working your way through high-stakes racing leagues to become an elite pilot. Gameplay-wise, the focus is on land speeders, speeder bikes, and skim speeders, all with very different handling styles. Some reward aggressive braking and acceleration, others are more about smooth racing lines and maintaining momentum. Multiple vehicle classes can even race together in the same events, which should make things pretty hectic. There's both single-player and multiplayer, a few different planets like Jakku and Ando Prime, plus a new toxic world called Sentinel-1 with environmental hazards that can actually affect your engines mid-race. And yes, Sebulba is teased in the trailer as well, so there's at least a little bit of Episode 1 nostalgia baked in. Overall, Galactic Racer looks solid for what it is. Not really my thing, but I know a lot of you have been asking for a Star Wars racing game to return for a long time. And finally, the third Star Wars game announcement, which came earlier this week and not at the Game Awards. This one is a brand new Star Wars collectible card game coming to Android, iOS, and PC, being developed by 036 Studio and CCG Lab in collaboration with Lucasfilm. The idea is pretty straightforward. You build decks featuring iconic characters like Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and other familiar faces. Now, I'm honestly not sure what to think about this. I do really like card games. A lot of you might know that I'm into the Pokemon TCG, both the physical cards and the online version, so the concept itself doesn't bother me at all. In fact, if it's done right, a Star Wars card game could be really fun. But that being said, Star Wars already has Star Wars Unlimited, which is doing really well as a physical card game, and as far as I know, there's no digital client for that game, so part of me is wondering why we're not just getting an official digital version of that game instead of a completely new separate game. It feels like a bit of a missed opportunity to split the audience rather than build on something that's already popular. Still, it's very clearly early days. We've seen no gameplay, no card mechanics, and no release window yet, so it's hard to judge. For now, it's just another example of Lucasfilm games pushing Star Wars into different genres again. So overall, 3 Star Wars games were announced in the span of a week. No multiplayer shooter, unfortunately, but a lot more variety than we've had for a long time. Now let's just hope we don't have to wait another 5 years before we hear anything meaningful about most of them. The last 5 years we've gotten a lot of Star Wars game announcements, but so many that have been cancelled or just radio silence after the reveal. I'm cautiously optimistic of the future of Star Wars games, but until we start seeing some actual gameplay and release dates, there's a lot of games that could end up in the can. And why they decide to have so many different Star Wars games in the works, but not a single one that focuses on multiplayer. Sure, they have some multiplayer elements to some of them, but you get what I mean. Is still beyond me, to be completely honest. Just look at like every social media comment section of any game announcement. It's always Battlefront 3, but you know the drill. That's always how it is. Maybe sometime, at some point, they will listen. But until then, thank you very much for watching. And as always, may the Force be with you.